In early 1998 I was pregnant with my youngest son. During the first 6 months I experienced difficulties such as fainting sensations and hot flashes. I had regular monthly prenatal checkups and my obstetrician found no abnormality in my pregnancy. On my due date September 7, 1988 I was in the hospital's labor room and had a very painful labor for more than 7 hours, after which it stopped. During labor time I was hooked to ECG electrocardiogram machine for my heart monitoring as I had breathing difficulty due to ischemia when the labor pain stopped. Even though the baby was in the right final position for birth, an x-ray was done and it showed that the baby was in a reverse position. In the afternoon of September 8 the labor pain resumed and at 8 o'clock in the evening I was rushed to the delivery room where I delivered the baby within 30 minutes. Despite the anesthesia, I heard my obstetrician declaring that I was bleeding profusely and needed a blood transfusion. Transfer her to the operating room for a hysterectomy. A tumor on top of my uterus was undetected. During my prenatal care I heard my obstetrician and anesthesiologists, who were both Christians, each praying close to my ears for me to be strong and have faith to survive. I was still able to follow the prayers asking for God's help for the sake of my child whom I had not yet seen. Soon I experienced myself speedily floating inside a fast-moving silver metallic tunnel and saw a very bright light at the far end of the tunnel. When I got out of the tunnel, a blinding shining floating white robe met me on the side. I saw my father, who died in 1982, which was 6 years earlier. I clearly remember he was smiling at me, crying in extreme joy for seeing my father. I asked him to please help me get back and still he kept on smiling. I implored God, please return me, my child needs me. And suddenly I heard a thunderous voice saying go back. In a split second I found myself inside the same tunnel returning from where I was. I knew later that after 10 minutes, when the doctors declared me clinically dead, I was miraculously alive, then transferred to the recovery room where I slept for 4 hours. When I woke up my mother was crying at my bedside. The first thing I asked was, am I still alive? Have the doctors secured the blood for my transfusion? After discharge from the hospital I had hepatitis A, hence could not take care of my baby. He had to be taken care of by my mom in her house. On my son's second month my mom narrated that in her early afternoon nap she dreamed my father fetched her and she was about to hold my father's hand when she heard my baby cry. She told my father she could not leave with him as she was taking care of my baby. She further narrated that my father answered, so my grandchild is here, take care of him. I helped him have his mother back. As I look back to this experience I could not help but wonder in awe how God works wonders in our life. Even my doctor, who waited 2 months after my recovery to explain to me in detail what really transpired inside both the delivery and operating rooms, she shared that God used her in performing a miracle on me. She even suggested I celebrate September 8th as my second life birthday and my son's birthday. That does it for Zoe's experience. Moving right into Terry's experience. I had a difficult birth of our first daughter on September 23, 1970. I was only 19 small boned and the baby was over 8 pounds in weight. After many hours of labor the doctor finally performed a cesarean section to deliver her. I was told later that I had hemorrhaged on the operating table and the doctors were afraid they had almost lost me, but that was not when I had my NDE. That happened 10 days later. I was at home with my family, mom, sister, and dad, because my husband was in the Air Force and deployed to training several states away. I had my first anaphylactic reaction. The doctor surmised it was probably a delayed reaction to the drugs received during the birth. My sister and mom drove me to the hospital. There was number 9-1-1 inch those days and I was declared clinically dead. Upon arrival I remember being wheeled into the emergency room and being up in the corner of the room looking down at myself. On the table my body was looking upward and my eyes were open but unseeing. I had seen enough TV to know that I was dead. I also remember seeing my mom and sister on the other side of the emergency room door trying to look in through the little window in the door. I told them that I had seen them and could describe where they were, how they looked, and what they had said. They didn't believe me. My sister said, but you were dead, we saw you. So after their reaction I didn't tell anyone else for many years. Even though this happened almost 34 years ago I can still remember it vividly. I did not experience a tunnel but rather was enveloped in a beautiful light of love and knew I was being held on the lap of Jesus like a child. It is a feeling of unconditional love. The closest I can possibly come is the overwhelming love I felt for my tiny daughter when I held her, but even it is not the same. I did not have a life review but rather Jesus, and I had an astounding conversation where he patiently answered all my questions. One I distinctly remember, I had recently completed a grueling course in calculus and had gotten all the final exam answers correct except one. I wanted to know the answer to that question. Jesus laughed laughed and then gave me the answer, not in words but in a knowing that encompassed not just the element of the question but a complete understanding of all relational aspects of the question. He has a wonderful sense of humor, and I distinctly got the feeling that he enjoys us humans as a father enjoys watching the minor scrapes children get themselves into. I was allowed to have full knowledge and understanding. I remember that the awareness hit me with complete clarity, and I thought of course it's so obvious, why are we all missing it? Although not allowed to keep all the knowledge shown to me, there are 2 items I was allowed to keep. One in response to my question regarding religions of the world and which is the true religion. He answered, men come to me on many paths, and I had a complete understanding of the response, which is broader than the words can convey. The point is not religion but faith too. In response to my question about why we are here, he answered, to love one another. Again, the understanding and meaning of this answer is so much more than the words. We are each part of him, and by loving one another and ourselves we are in fact loving him. After what seemed like hours but was only about 7 minutes according to hospital records, he asked me if I would like to return. I felt that he already knew the answer but was asking out of politeness. I told him that I wanted to stay here and raise my daughter. He said, as you wish, and at that instant I was back in my body. I felt the needles in my body and the pain, and heard the doctor say, I think we have her back. I have since had a second daughter and our 4th grandchild is due this September. I know that my purpose here is to be a mother and grandmother, and that role is held in high esteem by God. I take that responsibility very seriously, and I laugh a lot.